Hey, welcome back to Part Time. I'm Ryan.
I'm Judd.
What did we watch today, Judd?
Well, we were watching a movie from... What year is this?
I believe it was... Oh gosh, 2000.
2000 something. Anyways,
It was more...
it was fairly recent.
Yeah.
It's called The Runaways, and it's the story about...
The Runaways.
The Runaways. The Runaways. About Joan Jett and not the Heartbreakers, but her
first band, The Runaways.
Yeah. It stars Dakota Fanning and
Kristen Stewart. Dakota Fanning plays Cherie Currie, who is the lead singer of The Runaways, and Kristen Stewart plays Joan Jett in this movie.
The Runaways is a 2010 biopic that chronicles the formation of the 70s all-girl rock band The Runaways. The movie stars Kristen Stewart as Joan Jett, Dakota Fanning as Cherie Currie, Stella Maeve as Sandy West, Scout Taylor Compton as Lita Ford, and Michael Shannon as Kim Fowley. Aaliyah Shawkat plays the fictitious bandmate named Robin, as Jackie Fox did not give her permission for her name to be used in this film. The film opens with the introduction of Currie and Jett. Eventually, Jett happens upon a music producer, albeit eccentric, at a nightclub and tells him of her desire to start an all-girl rock band. General Zod introduces her to Sandy West, who is a drummer, and then tells them to promptly get started. Eventually, they have a band put together, but Fowley notices that they need a frontrunner, preferably a hot blonde. Luckily for Fowley, he happens upon Currie at a nightclub, who just so happens to have a great fondness for music, specifically David Bowie. After a short audition in which Fowley and Jett write Cherry Bomb on the spot for Currie, the band accepts Currie as their lead singer and they start doing shows. Eventually, they get signed by Mercury Records and start touring Japan, where they become the biggest thing since sliced bread. They come back to the States, where Currie gets tired of the band, and she just gets tired of the grind, claims that her voice is all ragged out, and she eventually leaves the band out of frustration. The film ends with Jett being interviewed on the radio by a very awkward individual after her new band, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, has already achieved fame.
There's a lot of other really good actors in this movie that portray their parts well. I had actually seen this movie while I was still living in Warner Robins on Netflix one day, and I decided to give it a watch. I'd heard about it, but I hadn't actually seen it yet at that point. I think this movie may have come out in 2010.
Let me read it.
Because it seems like that was close to the time I was still living there in 2010.
Yep, 2010.
Yeah. So I watched it by myself.
Well prepared I am.
So I don't know that any of my other friends had seen it. So this weekend, actually, I showed it to Judd and to a couple of our other friends as well, and they all said they liked it. A couple of my friends weren't really looking forward to it as much at first. They didn't know if they enjoyed it or not, but they enjoyed it. It's based on a book that Cherie Currie wrote called Neon Angel. That's about her time as a runaway, and Joan Jett is an executive producer on the film. So they get a lot of information from Cherie Currie from her book, and I'm sure Joan Jett had a lot of input on her own life, because some of this is set up where parts of it are focused on her alone before they met, and on Cherie alone.
But I would have to say that I haven't actually checked out the accuracy as far as how accurate the movie is to the real life events, but I would imagine that from the bits and pieces I've seen on Wikipedia or whatever, it sticks pretty close. And like you said, Joan Jett is a producer, so I would imagine she would have some sort of say if they were to stray a little too far, in the facts. And like you said, it was based on Cherie Currie's book, so you gotta think that it probably holds pretty close to the facts.
Yeah. This is actually the first review we've done on something that actually happened. That's a movie based on something that happened.
I was thinking about what genre this is, and I guess it's not necessarily drama. It's just biopic, right? It's a biopic.
I guess, yeah, but
it's got dramatic.
It's pretty dramatic.
It's got dramatic elements and it's got comedic elements, and it's got various elements to the movie. But like I guess simplest terms would just be a biopic, and it was. I thought I was pretty entertained throughout it. I mean, it was the guy. What's his name? Michael Shannon.
And Michael Shannon, who played Zod in Man of Steel.
I just kept calling him General Zod. I loved seeing him because he was so over the top, and he was just like every time he was on screen, it's like you wondered what he was going to say next.
Yeah,
I mean, he
was great.
Yeah, he pushed the envelope in some of the stuff, like just as far as what he told these girls. And each time he was on, I'm like, oh, well, what is he going to say next? But I looked up a picture of the guy he was playing, and he's actually the picture I saw is the producer, or not? What is he? The agent?
I guess he was their manager.
The
really,
manager.
He kind of. Joan Jett notices him in front of this club, and she knows who he is, and she pitches her idea to him that she wants to form an all-girl rock band. Which at the time there really weren't any all-girl rock bands, so he introduces her to the drummer, and they kind of start putting things together. So I guess he was kind of their manager. He booked gigs for them.
Yeah. And
but he was a very eccentric guy.
Oh,
he
yeah,
was very interesting.
Yeah, he would go into clubs wearing face paint and makeup and all this other stuff, and it was he is just for no other reason alone watching his character is enough to watch this movie. I mean it's yeah, and like I said, I looked up a picture of the guy who was actually portraying, and he actually resembles the real life guy fairly well. I mean the picture I saw was of the guy a little bit advanced in years, but it looked pretty.
Kim Fowley is the guy's name.
Kim Fowley, yeah. I mean,
I'm glad I was on there.
Yeah.
I should have looked at his name before we did this review and tried to have that in my head, because he's an important character to the plot of the film, and I guess important to the Runaways' career. When I watched this the first time, I was curious because of the musical aspect of it. The songs in this movie are great. By and large, the songs are songs from the Runaways. There are a couple of songs thrown in there from some other artists. Like I know the Lady Grinning Soul by David Bowie is used when Cherie Currie performs it for a talent show. And she gets booed at by her classmates, and they throw stuff at her. And that's a fairly early scene in the movie.
She had her Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah, she does the lightning bolt from the cover of. I wish I could remember what the album is. I have the album in my room framed, and I can't remember what the name of the album is. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about, though, most likely. If you're familiar with David Bowie, you know that album cover. But yeah, she. They find her in a club, and I guess Joan Jett had seen her in the same club earlier, but they hadn't actually met. And then she brings Kim Fowley over to meet her. Because they're looking for a blonde, I think.
Yeah, they're looking for like a front runner to really like attract, I guess, the male demographic. And they see her. She did a photo shoot in a magazine or something. Like they see her in a magazine.
That's
something.
way later, yeah. Or that.
Well, I mean,
that wasn't her in the magazine.
Oh, okay.
No, that was.
Okay.
I don't think that was her. I think they were just. That was the idea. They wanted a really hot blonde bombshell to front the band. And like I said, Joan Jett had seen her earlier, and I think maybe.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it wasn't really too. That part wasn't really too well explained exactly how they went about finding Cherie in particular. I mean, we hadn't seen her do any kind of photo shoot things, and she was 15 years old at the time when they find her in this club.
Yeah.
And they're all young.
They all sort of came together pretty quick, and I don't know, it might have been like that in real life. I mean, but like it's kind of like Joan Jett saw this guy and she's like, "Hey, I want to start all over block band." He's like, "Oh, okay, here's my number." And I'm like,
and he introduced her to the drummer, and actually Joan Jett and the drummer start playing first, and they call Kim up and have him listen while they're playing their instruments so that he can hear what they sound like. Then we see him over there with them, and I guess some other girls that are in the band, and they decide that they need the singer. When they meet with Cherie when they meet with her, they tell her to come out to audition. So when she shows up to audition in this trailer, and I don't know if they had any other girls they auditioned too. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't talk about that.
They didn't talk about that in the movie. I mean, it just
they may not have
auditioned
anybody else. They may have just struck gold, or they may have. I don't know. But when she shows up there, the band is complete except for her at the time. It's all the girls and Kim are in there. And it's a really cool scene, actually. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. One of the most well-known songs from the Runaways is Cherry Bomb. And it was actually written for Cherie during her audition. Kim and Joan Jett wrote it during the audition for Cherie Currie to sing, and it's pretty much their most well-known song, which is so interesting to me that's how they wrote it. And they have some other good songs. Don't get me wrong, but that song just really stands out.
And that's the one. That's the one that I know of.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you ask me.
You've heard it as recently as in Guardians of the Galaxy. They played it in that. So,
yeah.
It's but they do her audition, and she sings Cherry Bomb for the first time, and he has to push her a few times, and you start to see how he would push them to try to be more raw and out there, because if they weren't going to get the attention that they needed to get.
Yeah.
And I think what he was doing, I mean, it was right for the market they're trying to hit, and the demographic, because they want people to take them seriously, and so they have to compete against. It's like they were getting into a boys' club, and they had to compete against these guys.
And he knew, and as extreme as his methods may have been, they worked. I mean, like, he knew that they were trying to get into a boys' club, and like, he made them ready for that. I mean, and like I said, he's eccentric and he's zany and wild and crazy, but it worked.
And he passed away, this year, as you said?
It was either this year or last year. Actually, I think it was early this year.
January
this year. Bladder cancer, I believe.
And the drummer for the Runaways also passed away a few years back.
Yeah, a few years ago.
Of also cancer. It was lung cancer, you said?
Yeah, lung cancer.
Lung cancer. But the rest of them are all still living. But it was I like watching movies sometimes that are based on true events. This was one of the better ones I've seen. More interesting ones I've seen. Especially because I like rock and roll music and rock music, and I like the setting of the 70s.
It was a good setting. The timepiece, like as far as being a timepiece, like as setting in a different decade, they did a good job of that. I mean, you really feel like you're in the 70s, like everything that from set design and just cars they drive and the way that, the people look and everything. They did a very good job providing good atmosphere to really convey the 70s. And as biopics go, I think it's one of the better ones. I mean, I haven't seen too many biopics, but it's definitely one of the good ones. But,
If there's a scene it gets to at the very end where they've gone to Japan to tour, and they perform Cherry Bomb, and Cherie Currie has decided to wear this outfit on stage that's basically, I guess, lingerie.
Yeah.
That she wears out on stage. And you can actually go on YouTube and find this performance that they actually did. And the outfits all match. I mean, the costume design was really good in this movie. And we actually just watched that video on YouTube.
I didn't know I had seen like the red jumpsuit and everything that Joan Jett had worn, but I didn't know you're talking about how well the costumes are. I didn't know how accurate they were until we watched the original video of the Runaways, and but yeah, the costumes were just very good. Like it looked like what they. I don't know how they could have done that better. I mean, they were spot on as far as costumes and really hairstyles, and I thought the acting was very good as well. I mean,
I'm not generally a Kristen Stewart fan. I have nothing against her personally. I really don't. She's excellent in this movie. I think she did a great job portraying Joan Jett. And I like Dakota Fanning. I've seen her in a lot of things I like her in.
Yeah, I would say she's a much better actress than Kristen Stewart, in my opinion.
But they both do excellent in this movie. They work really well together in this movie.
Oh yeah, they have great chemistry. And Kristen Stewart actually surprised me. I wouldn't really say I'm not really a Kristen Stewart fan. I've never seen the Twilight movies. I don't have much intention on seeing the Twilight movies.
There's very little chance you will see the Twilight movies on part-time.
That's true. Unless we get some sort of crazy reaction about people commenting saying we want Twilight reviewed. I'm not.
Not that I'm not willing to do it. Yeah, but it won't be by choice.
It won't be by choice.
My choice.
But like I said, I've seen her in a few things like Snow White and the Huntsman and
that movie.
But like overall, I've never been like overly impressed with her acting ability, but I was here. She played Joan Jett very well. I thought she gave a great performance, and if she did more performances like that, she probably would, like the common man would probably take her a little bit more seriously than I guess they do, because I mean people really mainly see her as being in Twilight, and
yeah, that probably doesn't.
It probably doesn't help, but she actually can act, and she can actually act very well, and this movie is proof of that. I still think that Dakota Fanning is a better actress, simply because I've seen her sort of diversify her acting ability a little bit more, and I love Dakota Fanning in I Am Sam. I mean that was a great movie. I mean she just has acting chops, and she's had it from a young age, and that's just my opinion.
Now the director of this movie I'm not very familiar with, and I was just looking at the name, Floria Sigismondi.
Something like that.
I don't know, but the direction was great in the movie.
It really was, yeah. I mean,
and I thought it was all really well done. They both Kristen Stewart and Dakota Fanning, as far as I know, they both sing in this movie as well.
Yeah.
They use their own voices, which I like. You can tell it's them singing.
You can actually download the soundtrack on iTunes, and it's the Runaways song sung by
sung by them.
Dakota Fanning and Kristen Stewart, and they do a great job. I mean,
but they do a good job. I will say that Dakota Fanning, though, her voice isn't quite as powerful as Cherie Currie's. If you go back and watch like that video I was talking about, you can tell they sing very differently when you hear the way that Dakota Fanning sung it and the way Cherie Currie does. Cherie Currie has a very powerful voice, and she's actually a chainsaw artist now. She has a very interesting career path in music, movies, and now chainsaw artist. So.
Hey, some people, whatever floats your boat. I mean, jack of all trades,
But there's things I never would have looked or found out about these people if I never watched this movie. And a lot of people know who Joan Jett is and where she went from here.
Yeah, I knew Joan Jett more from the Black Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard of Cherry Bomb, of course, but I didn't know much about the Runaways as a band. And I'm glad I watched it. It was very entertaining, and it was very informative, really. So I mean, overall, it's a great movie, as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
I would be interested to know if the kind of meltdown that happened that got Cherie Currie, where Cherie Currie left the band, if it happened that way in real life exactly, or how much was different from real life there. I know that, I think I read that the Runaways did stay together for 2 more years after Cherie left.
Yeah.
But definitely, it probably wasn't the same at all.
Oh no,
without Cherie. And
that I've always felt that when a band loses its lead singer, the lead singer is such a recognizable piece of a band. Like, because when you hear it, you instantly know that's that band. Like when you hear Axl Rose's voice, you say, "Hey, that's Guns N' Roses." Or if you hear Scott Weiland's voice, it's like that's Stone Temple Pilots. It's very recognizable. When you lose the main voice of a band, a lot of people, it can lose a lot of people.
And I don't know. I mean, Joan Jett could have taken over as a voice. She has a great voice too.
That's true.
But I don't know if she did or if they got another singer. I don't know what they did. I haven't looked into it that much. But I'm watching this movie, and which got me interested in some of the songs a while back, and I downloaded a lot of their music, and I've listened to. I think I downloaded some of their album on iTunes, but it really makes me wish I could know what could have been if they had actually stayed together and done more, because like I said, they were, I don't know of any other real female rock bands that were all female before the Runaways. And it would have been interesting to see how far they could have gone and what all they could have done, because they'd gotten very popular in Japan. You were telling me.
Yeah, they were huge in Japan, and the funny thing is like they weren't all that big in America. I think Cherry Bomb did pretty good, but they were like huge in Japan, and I think Joan Jett and the Blackhearts were bigger than the Runaways.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. You're all right. Her Dakota Fanning's, or I'm sorry, Cherie Currie. Her departure from the band in the movie, to me, it seems a little sudden. That she had a couple of problems with Lita Ford, but they were in Japan, and it's like they found out that Cherie Currie did some sort of photo shoot for a Japanese magazine.
And it wasn't something she planned. It was
like their manager had some photographers go over there and do a photo shoot, and the rest of the band found out when they were in Japan, and they got all pissed at Cherie Currie, and that sort of started. And then a few scenes later, she just got tired of people yelling at her, and she's like,
they were in a studio recording.
Recording, and her
and it may have been, I don't know how long that scene happened after the photo shoot fiasco with her band. It could have been months, or it could have been a while. We don't really know. They don't tell us that information, so there could have been a lot of other stuff that happened that led up to it. But she doesn't want to. She wants to rest. She doesn't. She's
kind of.
She wants to rest her voice, and Kim's trying to force her to sing, and
she's like,
I don't know if Lita was yelling at her too. I don't know what happened, but
it does look like interesting thing about when she left. Joan Jett was really pissed that they had sort of. It looked like Joan Jett thought that they had ran her off. Basically,
yeah, she was mad.
Really
mad that they had done that to Cherie.
Because it really seemed like she didn't want Cherie to leave, but Cherie was set on leaving, so she left.
And there was a nice scene at the end that is probably in the 80s when Joan Jett's on a radio show.
Yeah.
And Cherie Currie is working in some store, and she hears Joan on the radio interviewing with this guy, and they're taking phone calls, so Cherie calls in just to say hi, which I guess is something that actually happened.
It might have, yeah.
And it was a nice little moment there at the very end, because that was after Joan Jett and the Blackhearts had just done "I Love Rock and Roll."
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because they had just played that on the radio, and
they did.
So that was a nice little end to it, and then it gave us some information about Joan Jett and Cherie Currie, and about Kim. Didn't really tell us about any of the other band members at the end. No. Which, there were only 3 other band members, I think.
They all did. They all went on to do other things.
Yeah. And Lita Ford, she went on to do her solo stuff in the 80s. So, and she's a great guitarist. And the actress they had playing Lita Ford, you said
I think her name's Taylor Scout Compton. She played Laurie Strode in Rob Zombie's Halloween movies.
But she,
which I liked her better in this, by the way.
She did good as Lita Ford, and I thought she looked the part well, especially after we watched that old video from Japan. And I mean, you could they cast her very well as far as looks and her acting.
Very good. So,
I was also happy to see Maybe from Arrested Development in this movie. She played the bass player, but she didn't really have many lines. I don't even know if she said anything in the movie.
She had a couple.
She had a couple lines, but
I mean,
it was very
much.
sparse. I was very surprised that they got her, and then she hardly ever said anything in the movie. But anyway, I'll give my rating on this.
Okay.
If you're ready to move to that?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and give the ratings.
I didn't really touch on a lot of positive, negative, maybe like our last review, but I mean, I would give this one 4 stars. I think if you are really into rock music, if you're familiar with the Runaways music, or if you just are interested in the 70s setting and kind of some of that scene, that rock scene, then you should maybe check it out. I think you'd enjoy it. And like I said, the music's really good, and it's interesting to see the history of bands sometimes.
Yeah. My ratings be a lot along the same lines. It's difficult because I don't really have anything negative to say about this movie. I mean, I really don't. Like it was well made, well casted, well acted. Just it was good all around. Like I don't have anything negative to say about it, but I'd have to probably give it probably 4 stars. That's what I'm leaning towards. But I mean, 3.5 seems too low, but like 4 would be a good one. I mean, like I said, there's really nothing for me to say that would be negative. I mean, it might drag a little bit in the beginning.
In the beginning, yeah.
But after that, once Michael Shannon comes in, it's all downhill from there. I mean, but it's like I said, there's really nothing for me negative to say about it. I would recommend it to, like you said, if you like rock music, if you like biopics, just to see. If you like biopics in general, it's a good biopic. But if you like rock music, or if you like Joan Jett, or
Joan Jett in particular. If you're a Joan Jett fan, if you're a Lita Ford fan, you might want to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, if you like
her history,
like you said, if you're a fan of that type of, or the type of music from that era, I would check it out. I mean, and if you just like eccentric performances, you could just check it out from Michael Shannon. that is his name, right?
Yeah, Michael Shannon.
General Zod. Yeah, you can check it out for him. So, but I mean, his performance.
Tim Fowley.
Yeah, but he's great in it. So, but yeah, I would recommend it to pretty much most people I meet. I'll probably tell them to check it out. But
well, all right. Those are our ratings, and I hope if you're interested that you will check out this movie. I'm Ryan.
I'm Judd.
And thanks for watching Part Time.